good morning, buenos dias, and I gotta learn some other languages as well. But hopefully you can feel my intent. Good morning. I want to talk to you about patterns and what happens when those patterns become no longer useful. In other words, when those patterns become negative, what do you do with them? Because they're going to keep recurring as long as they are useful to you. As long as you don't tell them to stop being patterns, as long as you don't command that energy to be otherwise, it's just going to be what it was first formed to be, which might be a pattern that at one point was positive, but over time as you've grown, that pattern is no longer useful and now it just has a negative effect. This is sort of like having a Power Wheels car when you were a child, and it was a lot of fun to ride around in the Power Wheels. But once you got to be an adult, you can't be 26 years old on the Power Wheel. You won't even fit. And if you try to fit, that's real special. So this is what I mean. Some people really try to fit in the Power Wheel, including myself. And a lot of times this happens unconsciously. This happens other than consciously. So you're not thinking about it, but these patterns keep appearing because you don't let them go. What do you do with those outdated patterns? The first thing you've got to do is you got to identify those patterns. The second thing you do is you've got to know how to get rid of them. And here's a very simple way to get rid of them. Just stop giving them attention. When you meditate, meditation will teach you how to do this and grow in strength and grow stronger doing this. Meditation will allow you to give the attention only to the function that you need, which is your breathing. Everything else is secondary to your breathing. And so in giving your attention only to your breathing for a set amount of time, which time is what you used to learn here, you're going to learn what patterns are most important, because those are the only ones that are going to endure. The rest of the stuff is going to come and try to get your attention, but as long as you come back to your breathing, eventually they'll go away, and then bigger thoughts will come, and then bigger thoughts will come, and then bigger thoughts, and it's unlimited. By the time you finish your meditation practice after a while, every thought that you have is going to be bursting with genius, simply because you have the discipline to let those little thoughts grow and let them become bigger and grow stronger. Come back to me when you're stronger, you say to them, in a way. The third thing you want to do is you want to replace those older patterns with newer, better, updated, improved patterns. The old stuff is no longer useful. Crying because you don't get your way worked when you were 5, but when you're 25, it just doesn't work. If it does work, then you're in a special situation. You want to do something better than it, like intending to get your way, and then having the faith that your intention will manifest. And now everything rooted in your breath is going to that faith, is going toward manifesting that intention. Now there might be some patterns that appear, and this is where this video comes in, the topic, the subject of this video. Those patterns that at one point were very positive, at some point do this. They stop in being useful because they're outdated. They're old, they're ready to go. When they're old, that doesn't mean that they're bad patterns now. They're just bad patterns for you. They don't belong in your conscious mind any longer. They need to be reconverted to something else. You need to turn those patterns into something more useful to you. And so when you meditate, you can turn those patterns into something else. The way that you consciously turn those patterns into something else is by replacing those patterns as soon as you can identify them. So, for example, if you wake up at 7 o'clock every morning, let's say you have to be at work at 9 o'clock. You're doing a 9 to 5 job or something like that. So you got to be at work at 9, but you wake up at 7. So it gives you enough time to get up, you got a routine, eat something, and then you go to work. But let's say you want something more out of the morning. Let's say you even want to go past the 9 to 5. Let's say you want to do a 10 to 2. Let's say you want to come up with your own schedule, your own way, your own life. And in this information age, or in this age where all the information is universally available to all the beings here, so long as you can get to a device that will translate all this data, you know, a computer, you know, somebody who talks a lot, you know, or whatever, then you can find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. You can find a way. You can make a way to be successful. Doesn't mean you're not going to work. You're definitely going to work. But work is going to be redefined for you, just like you're redefining these habits. So what you want to do is come up with a way to replace those habits. If you get up at 7, get up at 6:30 for 30 days. If you get up at 6:30 for 30 days, at the end of 21 days, you physically formed a new groove in your brain. And that means that that habit is always accessible. Everything that comes along with that groove or is close to that or is connected to that habit, connected to that pattern, is now available for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean you always have to do that, but it means if you start getting in the groove, if you start getting in the rhythm of that pattern, then it's going to be, your mind is going to naturally know what to do. 10 years later, you can start waking up at 6:30 on a regular basis, 2 or 3 days at a time. Then all of a sudden, you're going to start getting up at 6:30, 6:30, 6:35, 6:32, 6:23, 6:05. You're going to start getting up around that range naturally because your body already knows that pattern because you set that pattern.